Did you hear that, buddy? I think I hear a kitten.
This week is going to be a bit of a wild card because of Mother Nature. We've got some really crazy weather coming up, so I am going to do my best to get all of the horses ready and clean up anything that is not tied down. I'm a little bit worried about my plants that are now growing quite large because we are expecting to get 50-mile-an-hour gusts again.
Hey, Brucey. My little muscle man. How are ya? So handsome, like your new big pen.
Bruce and Prim have been enjoying their pen extension. I do think it may have been a little bit early for Bruce to get a bit more room to run, so I'm going to keep a very close eye on his legs this week. I can tell he has been growing, but I still want to make sure his legs are straightening up as they should.
Such a pretty boy. Such a pretty boy. It's a good boy.
With all of the attention Bruce has been getting, I've noticed that Prim here lately has been asking for me to groom her more and more. It seems as though she is a bit jealous of this little guy.
There you go. Where's the... Get your lips out of here. Let me see your nose, girl.
Huckleberry is usually very good around the horses, but last night Scarlet decided to reach over the fence and bite him, and Huckleberry bit her back pretty good on the nose. I gave it a good scrub and it looks like it's healing up just fine.
Tiny. Here's your lunch, little buddy. Come on.
One thing on the docket for this week is to get another little pasture ready for the boys. I have a few that I'm thinking of, but I need to check them for weeds that could be toxic.
Good boys. Stewie. Hi, Stewie. Boy, Stu. Good boy, Pete. Oh, what was that? Oh, good boy, Pete.
The boys have been getting turnout on different parts of the yard, and now that they've exhausted that grass, I need to find another place to put them. One of the few places on the property that does not have any prairie dog holes and has pretty good grass is around the orchard. Unfortunately, I noticed this morning that there are a bunch of sweet peas growing out here which are pretty toxic to the horses. I'm either going to have to pull them out or fence them off from where the horses are going to be grazing. I know that these perennial sweet peas are considered an invasive species in a lot of places, so I'm going to have to look them up and see if I'm required to pull them out. It's a really good thing I went through and checked this pasture again because I believe this is a black walnut tree, which is also very toxic to horses. It's one of the most toxic trees there is to have around your equines. I'll definitely have to have that removed before the horses go out here. This little pasture is pretty small, but it will be perfect for the horses to get out in a bigger area and stretch their legs. With all of the apple trees around here, it's not a permanent turnout, but it will be good for these horses to get out for a few hours. It's getting pretty dry and hot out here, so before this grass goes to waste, I want the horses to be able to utilize it. There aren't very many areas on the property that has established standing grass that the horses can eat, so I'm trying to utilize all of the areas I have this year. I did a lot of pruning to these old trees during the winter time, and I've been waiting to see if a few of them are going to spring back to life. Unfortunately, the ones that were a little bit questionable do look like they are completely dead right now. Since it doesn't appear that these trees have been maintained in quite a while, I'm going to have to watch very carefully to see if there is any disease pressure on these ones that are still standing. As I was going through and checking the dead trees. I was really surprised that I was able to just simply push a few of them over, so they are definitely not alive anymore. I do have a few new trees that I planted over by the garden. I was going to plant them over here, but I decided since I'm not sure how sick these other live trees are, it would be best if I kept them separate. I can always come back through and plant a few more new trees once I have a better handle on what these trees may have been suffering from. I know apple trees don't grow forever, so a couple of these may have been closer to the end of their life. All of the blossoms in the spring got frozen, so I'm not expecting to see any apples this year. I was really bummed to see that a few of the leaves on some of the more mature apple trees are not looking normal. I'm pretty sure that this is a fungal disease that the trees have, so I'm going to have to do some investigating onto the next steps I should take if I want to try and save these trees. There's one last stump that I'm not quite sure if it could be trying to hang on still. It has one branch that I noticed had a few leaves on it earlier in the season, but it looks like it's really struggling. I've replaced all of the barbed wire fence that was here, and now all I have to do is enclose the rest of the pasture for the horses to go out. I still have my giant load of slab wood that I'm going to start pulling from for different projects. It is probably the cheapest way now to get lumber, so I'm glad I have some laying around for all the odds and ends that I'm going to be building. Across from the orchard pasture, I put up some new T-posts with the help of my husband. There were a few that were already here, and I figured I'd just enclose this little pasture area for the boys to be in. It'll make the perfect dry lot while I'm cleaning out the one they're in now and putting up permanent fencing. It has the perfect little area for a few shelters, and since most of this grass is cheat grass, it'll be fine for the horses to get out here and trample it down. So hopefully I can revitalize it. There's a little bit of orchard grass, and I've seen a few sprigs of alfalfa, but besides that, there's really nothing for the horses to graze on. One of the nice things about this little hidden pasture is it would be easy to connect it to what will eventually become the larger pastures for grazing. Currently, the property is just fenced on the perimeter pretty much, so if I turn the horses out, they'll have access to 40 acres. The land definitely needs some time and TLC to spring back to life. I have a feeling that the past owners had a lot of pressure on the grass just because of the amount of animals they were grazing. It's really hard for grass to get established when there are horses and goats coming along and nibbling on all the little fresh seedlings. Ideally, when you reseed a pasture, you need to leave the animals off of it for an entire year, which is really hard to do for most people. I've done a few very serious pasture restoration projects in the past, so I know that even though it really stinks to have the horses in dry lots for so long, it's going to pay off in a year or two. In addition to the grass, I'm still slowly working on the prairie dog holes.
Really betcha.
It does seem like it's really starting to green up out here, but unfortunately, a lot of this is just weeds. I've got a lot of projects this week that I was looking forward to getting done, but we've got a ton of wildfire smoke blowing in from Utah. There are a few pretty big fires burning right now, and unfortunately, it really messes with the air quality.
Hey, sparkler girl.
I keep a pretty close eye on the AQI because it does bother me quite a bit, and I don't want to get a migraine. When the smoke is this thick out, it is pretty bad for the horses as well. Sparkler has been going up to the arena every day and getting turned out, but with all this smoke in the air, I just don't want her galloping around. One of the neighbors is maintaining their ditch, so right now I'm getting a tiny bit more water than I probably should be this time of year. I have been sprinkling down different types of seed just to see what will germinate and how long it takes to grow. This is probably the hardest time of year to plant new grass because it's so hot and dry, and our irrigation water is a little bit up in the air depending on the day. I completely removed the round pen, filled back in the holes, and have begun dragging the future site of the arena. We went back and forth as to whether or not we would put a barn here, but for now I'm dragging it and getting it ready so I can actually work the horses in a safe environment. There are a ton of little tiny rocks and the holes are continuing to settle, so those are two things that I need to get finished before the horses come up here. It's taking longer than expected, but it's finally coming together.
What's wrong, little girl? Ooh, got a rock in your foot? Got a rock in your foot?
I've been getting a lot of comments on how it is so sad Sparkler has to stay in her pen all the time. But I go out on little adventures with her and the other horses all the time. I just can't film everything for you guys.
Standing on your lead rope. Oh, good girl. So smart. Come on. We're on an adventure, Sparkler. Be a Mustang.
Sparkler has really settled into domesticated life quite well. These days, even though she is on a diet, she is more preoccupied with snacks than anything else. Since the air quality is so bad today, this
What
little
have you
walk
been
is going to
doing?
have to be enough.
Come here. Let me see you. You been digging in the garden? You being a bad dog? Come here, not so fast. Let me see. You're all dusted up. Come on, let's go.
The smoke is getting really thick, and the next couple of days we're going to have some really intense winds. The current fires are pretty far away, but that could change at any minute. Overnight we did have a little bit of rain,
Zig,
which of course Ziggy took full advantage of.
you little mud puppy, Ziggo. Really caking it on, Zig. Come on, Brucey. Good morning, Brucey. Good morning, Bruce. Good morning. You scratch? This cute boy. Oh, good boy. Hey, man. It's 60% better today. What do you think, Ivar? Look at this. Ooh. Boy. Tiny. Where are you?
Every morning and evening I check on all of my little plants to see if they've started to produce yet. Ivar and Tiny have been following me along, checking on all of the plants. I'm not sure what's nibbling on all of my beans, but it might be time to start thinking about fencing in the garden. I do want to get the raised beds in because it'll just be so much easier to maneuver around here without any fencing up. I've left space for 3 new beds.
Huckleberry.
While the cats are pretty good around the garden, I've noticed Huckleberry has been stealing all of the squash blossoms. I've also caught him nibbling on a few of the seedlings that I planted. It's looking more and more like I'm going to need the fence to keep the wild animals and Huckleberry out.
Come on, Bruce. Oh, Nigel, you filthy little buddy.
We didn't get a huge amount of rain, but it was enough to knock down a lot of the smoke that was hanging around. We did have some really strong winds last night as well, and I'm surprised to see that there was only one tree down.
Dang it. Boys okay? Stewie?
The boys seemed pretty darn excited about all of the new moisture, and it looks like they were tracking the neighbors' cows as they were moving them down the road.
What do you think, little Gus?
I'm still pretty bummed my plans for the pasture are not panning out as I thought they would. I would love to see the horses galloping around, but for now they seem pretty content to stay in their prospective dry lots and get all of their meals brought to them. Before the winds and some smoke blows back in, I am going to get started on some raised beds today. I will be filling up the bottom with some older wood from this willow tree, so I need to cut it up and collect it. My current compost pile is not done cooking, so for now I'm just going to have to be satisfied with putting some really old logs in the bottom of the bed just so I don't have to fill it up with a lot of soil. After the addition of a few more panels to their pen, I had to change the area in which Prim and this little guy were making their manure pile. It usually takes a few days of me moving their poop around for them to figure out exactly where it's supposed to go. Now that they have the general gist, I am going to be able to remove this giant pile. Having their poop on the outside of the pen in a separate area from where they eat has helped with the bugs immensely. With all of the extra room to roam, this week Bruce has been a little bit distracted from his studies. Most days he is far more interested in playing with Ivar and Huckleberry than he is about continuing his halter training. It's still not a huge deal. I'm not in any kind of a rush, so whenever this guy wants to engage with me and learn new things, that is when I'll put him to work. But most days he has a pretty short attention span.
Brucey?
Prim is still pretty understanding even when Bruce is a total turd. I hate to say it, but he does have better manners around me than he does around Prim.
Your favorite chair?
It's kind of fun to see Ivar, Tiny, and Huckleberry hanging around Bruce all day. They definitely spend more time with him than I do.
Whoa!
One thing that I did not calculate when I made this pen bigger is how I was going to clean out their stall. Before I could just close the panels and have two separate areas, but now since it's much larger, that is not something I can do. It takes me a little bit longer to get everything cleaned up, but it does mean I get to spend a bit more time doing normal things around Bruce, and I think it has definitely helped his learning. Bruce is not really scared of the halter, but this week it seems like he's more content on investigating the world around him. Ivar is his latest obsession, so whenever he's around, I am definitely not first on his list. Even when Bruce is not interested in the cats, he does seem more content to pester his mama than learn. He still is not even 2 months old yet, so that is completely fine. When Ivar disappears and Prim goes over for her second breakfast, that is when this little guy seems to be much more interested in me.
A little scraggly. Come on. Boy. There you go, Nigel. Nice and clean.
An important part of any horse's training is just to handle everyday goings-on around the ranch. There are lots of tiny opportunities for learning every day, and when you add them all up, that will make a nice rounded education for Bruce. I would love to hang out with him all day, but I do have other things I need to get done around here before the really nasty winds come back. I've got a few seedlings that definitely need to be transplanted soon, so I can't put off building these raised beds any longer.
Brucey! Oh, here it is. Okay, buddy, what do you think? Ivar.
For the raised beds, I am probably not going to be able to build them all at once. I've got no building plans. I tried to see on the internet if anyone had built raised beds with slab wood, but I couldn't find it. I've got both spruce and aspen, and I decided to go with the spruce because it should take a little bit longer to break down. The most common wood to use in planter boxes is cedar. Unfortunately, right now it is super expensive. That huge load of slab wood I got for just over $300. If I went to Home Depot and bought cedar boards for one planter box, that is probably what I would end up spending.
Come on, you need a rest.
It took a few hours and a lot of measuring, but I eventually got one of the boxes done. As the sun was setting, I got it filled up with wood from the old willow tree. This stuff has been sitting out for years and years, so it is perfect to go underneath the soil.
Hey, you're stepping on my flowers. Come on. Come on.
The next morning, it looked like we were going to have a pretty nice day.
Zoom. Come on.
Once I get started on a project, it's really hard for me to stop and refocus my energy elsewhere. The first raised bed took me about a day to build, and I've got plans to make 2 more, but I think that I'll wait for the very last one until later in the season. It won't be long before my first bed of zinnias needs to be pinched. The second one I have going does not seem to be doing as well as the first. I'm not sure why that is, but the seedlings do seem to be a bit more leggy. Huckleberry is doing his best to get underfoot at every turn. I'm really glad I decided not to put the fence up right away because it was so much easier maneuvering around and getting the beds built without it. One of the things that has been a little bit up in the air is whether or not I'm going to remove this really old apple tree. The birds that were tiny little babies a few weeks ago are now zipping around and using it as a little perch throughout the day. It has one little branch that is still alive, but it is very wobbly. I'm hoping it doesn't blow down in one of the windstorms, but I am not confident that it's going to stay standing much longer. Whenever I need a little break, it is nice to be able to go in and give Bruce some scratches.
Feel very soft.
We are still kind of in the same routine. Every morning after I feed all of the horses, I go out into Bruce and Prim's pen and clean out all of the manure. Since we are having some really intense windy days coming up, I decided today would be a good time to strip out their stall completely. I don't want shavings and straw blowing around during the windstorms. I'm going to bed it back with just enough straw so that Bruce and Prim have a nice little bed to lay in. There's no sense bedding it back super heavy if it's just going to blow out into the neighbor's property. I can always tell when we have some serious weather coming because the horses get a little bit extra fresh. While I was cleaning out their stall, I was surprised to see that Prim and Bruce were particularly fresh today. There was definitely no shortage of nonsense. Even though he did get a bit distracted by Ivar again today, he was more interested in checking out what exactly I was doing to his stall. Bruce has a very inquisitive mind, and it is the main reason I chose the stud that I did. He produces very good-minded horses, and that was one of my main concerns after all the normal things like conformation and trainability. There's always a lot of variables when you're breeding a horse and hoping it to come out a specific way, but in Bruce's case, I couldn't be more happy with how he turned out. Today, Bruce leveled up his scratching game when I decided to use my pitchfork on his itchy little body. His baby fuzz is still coming out, and I noticed recently that he is getting much darker underneath. I was pretty confident that he was going to shed out and look just like Prim, but now I'm not so sure. Prim changes color throughout the year, and right now she is getting a bit darker on her neck. It's always fun to see what these color changing horses are going to do from season to season. Bruce and Prim could definitely tell that there was a storm coming in. Right when I was about finished cleaning out their stalls, they decided to have a little zip around their big enclosure. Bruce has definitely had a bit of a wandering mind this week, so I haven't really done very much productive training with him. I am, of course, still building on all of the concepts that we've been using in the past. He's still not super thrilled about standing still to get his halter on, but in other aspects of his training, he is doing a lot better. I was really excited when Ivar came trotting over to me, and then at the last second he swerved and I realized he was actually looking for Huckleberry. This week I am very much feeling like I am just working my tail off and the animals are having the time of their lives. Huckleberry has gone a little bit rogue this week, so I've been brushing up on all of his tricks. Huckleberry knows a lot of the basics like shaking both paws. He can play dead, roll over, and sit pretty. Believe it or not, Charlotte actually knows all of these tricks as well. They learned them at the exact same time. I shamelessly used Huckleberry today to get Bruce to come over and investigate. I knew he would find it interesting, all of the little things that Huckleberry was doing. While I don't have any other humans helping me train the horses, it does give me a little bit of a leg up to have the dream team of Huckleberry and now Ivar helping. Tiny is also almost always in the background supervising. She is a little bit suspicious of Bruce, so most of the time she just stays hidden underneath the Ranger. Horses do have a way of humbling you, and this week I felt like chopped liver compared to Ivar and Huckleberry. Bruce did try a few times to get me to play with him, but I think now he pretty much understands that I am not going to be able to run around with him like another horse would. Even though I don't have the halter in my hands, I am currently working on the steps that it's going to take to buckle the halter around his little neck. I did try and pull a few hairs out a couple times to send off for his genetic testing, and his hair is just too fine to get a good sample. It's not the most pleasant thing having hairs yanked out of your mane, so he is a little bit extra sensitive in that area. I've been trying my very best to undo that little bit of extra sensitivity I caused from trying to get a sample.
You too fresh? You too fresh?
Compared to last week, he is losing a lot more hair around his eyes and on his muzzle. He's got little chunks missing here or there, and he is definitely looking more scraggly than last week. He very much thinks that he is the center of attention still. When Ivar won't play with him, he tries to coerce Scarlet into his shenanigans. And if all of those options fail, then he comes back to me to get some more scratches. I'm really glad he is less sensitive on his neck this week, and this should make it a bit easier for me to actually get the halter on his little head. Still pretty sensitive around his ears, but that'll disappear with time. I'll do a little bit of a leg update for you guys. Since he has been running around a lot more in his bigger pen, you can see that we've actually regressed a little bit. The past couple of days he's had more gentle movement than extreme outbursts, so I think that we are on the upswing. As long as it doesn't get any worse, we can stay on the current plan. There may be a time in the future when he has to go back to being in a stall or a smaller pen just so his legs can get a little bit of a rest. I was expecting to go back in time a little bit when the pen got bigger just because he's more excited to get out and run around. Since all of my chores this week have basically been right next to his pen, I can keep a pretty close eye on him so I can see exactly how much running around he's doing. The weather forecast out here is typically pretty broad. We're supposed to be getting our first really big windstorm any minute now. We're having sustained winds at 20 miles an hour with gusts up to 50 miles an hour, so that's not going to be something I'm going to want to be outside for. All of the horses do have windbreaks or shelters. We've had a few really intense windstorms, and I think the horses are used to it. We did have the same kinds of winds certain times of the year in Montana. All of the shelters that I have up right now are in windbreaks and also strapped down. I'm not too worried about them blowing away anymore, but experiencing such strong winds always makes me a little bit nervous. I tried to do a little calculation on exactly how much these raised beds are costing me, but I got halfway through counting the wood slabs and I decided that it was a fruitless task. It is a huge pile, and I think I'll probably be able to build all of my raised gardens beds and a bunch of the horse shelters. These slabs are something that I'll be able to get an endless amount of because technically they are a byproduct that gets thrown away or turned into firewood. The raised bed that I'm building today is a little bit thicker than the one I did yesterday, so I did take the bottom edge off of the log. I also met a few stowaways in the bark. As soon as I got the bed laid out, however, it seemed like there was a pretty serious thunderstorm rolling in. The lightning out here can be really intense, and I just don't want to be outside when that happens. I was hoping to get this bed up, but it looks like I'm not going to get finished before the storm. I've got to hurry so I can put all of my tools away and get Huckleberry safe inside the house.
Shoot. It's raining, buddy. Uh-oh. Hey, Huckleberry. It's all right, buddy.
Huckleberry does not like thunder, so he has a whole protocol he goes through when we have serious storms.
It's all right. We got hail coming.
I really wanted to get finished soon, but it looks like I'm going to have to take a break for a while.
Peeing on my flowers?
The raised beds are shaping up pretty nicely, and I think they'll
let's go
fit in seamlessly in my garden design. I took this storm as an opportunity to head into town. I found some apple trees that were 50% off. I loaded up on dirt and got back and was able to finish the second garden bed. Since these slabs have just been sitting in a bundle since I got them, there were a few little pieces that were not quite straight. It doesn't really matter too much to the plants, and they're straight enough that it doesn't really matter too much. I didn't quite get all of the dirt in by the time I had to call it quits for the day. The next morning was the first day of really strong winds, so I wanted to get everything cleaned up so we didn't have any casualties. Without fail, every time we have one of these really serious windstorms, I find things that I thought I put away that just blow around.
Hey, Huckleberry, come on!
It is growing more apparent by the day that Huckleberry just cannot be trusted around the garden. I have not staked out any of my plants yet, so I'm a little bit nervous that they're going to snap off in the wind. I'm trying not to be too precious with any of them, and it's going to take a really hardy plant to survive this environment.
Uh-oh. The first casualty.
Yesterday, I pulled out a tomato plant that was looking really bad. I've got a few peppers that are not quite thriving. I've got a mystery plant, which I'm now thinking might be a pumpkin. I do have a bunch of labels on some of the plants, but others I just cannot remember what they are. When I planted everything out, I was anticipating that there would be some loss from pests and diseases. Even if some of the more mature plants failed, I could pull them right out and still have a pretty serious harvest. I have yet to see any little tiny tomatoes sprouting up, but today I did notice that I have a tiny little pepper coming in. It's always exciting to see the first fruits of your labor. The new raised beds are pretty big. The first one measures 4 feet by 10 feet. The second one that I built, I had to make a little bit skinnier to fit in between the rows, so it is only 10 feet by 2.5 feet. I'm going to make the giant bed filled with different cucumbers and a few of the special little plants I have out here. Even though it is going to get super windy, I should still be able to do a few things outside. When the wind picked up, all of the animals knew.
Batten down the hatches, Tiny.
Tiny went straight for her favorite tree.
You getting into your tree?
Ivar scurried off somewhere and I couldn't find him. Until I have dust getting in my eyeballs, I'm going to try and stay outside and get stuff done.
You okay, Nigel?
Before the winds get too crazy, I'm going to try and transplant all of my little seedlings, and then I'm also going to put some seeds in the skinnier bed. I'm calling this my pickle bed because it's going to have everything I need to make pickles. I've got lots of seedlings to transplant, and I'm hoping that maybe half of them survive. I'm not entirely sure that they will be too happy to go out in a windstorm. For the smaller bed, I'm going to do a little bit of chaos gardening. Since I had too many choices, I just decided to grab a few seeds from each of the packets and then sprinkle them out. I shook up my container and then dispersed the seeds as evenly as possible with the wind. I covered them with a little soil and then some straw and then watered them in. In between the really intense gusts of wind, I was able to work with Bruce a little bit. I decided in order to capture his mind a little bit better that I would start target him training to one of the mats in their turnout. Eventually he'll figure it out that if he comes over and stands on this mat, then I will come and give him a brush and some scratches. Unfortunately, our lesson for the morning got cut short because it was starting to get a bit too windy for me to be outside. It was getting to the point where I couldn't blink without my eyeballs feeling like someone had sprinkled sand in them. After checking on all of the horses, I decided to hunker down for the day inside the house. The horses should be fine for the day and I can pick up where I left off tomorrow. Thank you guys so much for watching and stay tuned for the next video.